Good morning and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel here at Patreon. You guys, thank you so much for individually, independently supporting all of our efforts, all of our research, our little miniature think tank in this little corner of the prepper world, examining what's going on out there and seeing how it affects us down here, just the little people, right? Getting prepared with food and water and shelter and clothing, it presents its own unique challenges. But a big part of my efforts have been trying to make sense out of the world that we have, to see and understand and gauge it for what it is. It is a complete disaster, right? The need to be prepared, I mean, thankfully, in so many ways. We've gotten a lot more time than originally anticipated when I started making videos because of the manipulation of the markets. Because politicians as well as bankers have continued to kick the can down the road, and they're trying to continue to do so. But they're running out of steam, and their efforts are producing less effective results, let's put it that way. And in addition to that, there have been efforts all along to expose what is going on. And the mainstream media has clouded it. They've clouded the September 11th truth, facts. We could even just say alternative opinions coming from noted physicists and experts, right? But it's been suppressed by the media, along with our monetary and our financial and economic interests. They've been manipulated and then they've been covered up by the mainstream media, but it's coming out. It's interesting that as we get closer to shit hitting the fan, the actual truth is finding its way out. For years, an organization called GATA, which is the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, they have been trying to expose precious metals market manipulation by private banks. And they've gotten a little bit of press, but zero traction, it would seem. And not only are these efforts happening here in the United States of America, they're also being exposed in England, which is the other half of the major gold manipulation market at the LBMA. And their markets from the City of London, which is its own unique little corporate body, separate and distinct from the city that we know as London. The City of London is different than London City. Anyways, there's also manipulation that has been exposed coming out of Germany at Deutsche Bank, right? Their traders have gotten in trouble. But this isn't just about gold and precious metals. This is about manipulation of the entire market. This talk is about a manipulation of our monetary system, a bigger thing. And it's about an overall manipulation of the world we live in. How we, you and I, and everybody thinks about it. But everybody isn't awake, and everybody doesn't pay attention. In fact, everybody doesn't give a shit. But I think enough people are waking up, enough concerned people, enough aware people, enough people who are making enough of a stink and a racket, right? There's only so much the bad guys can do before we're aware, we as a people, right? There's a mass awakening going on right now, and it's being driven by fear. Fear is the number one motivational factor in all of human existence. Fear, right? You're a good boy because of fear of going to hell, or fear of going to prison, or fear of living under a bridge, so we work hard, right? If there were no fear, what would motivate us? Good things, right? Nice things. But anyways, let's start small with this story and then kind of expand upon it. 3 JP Morgan traders are charged with massive gold market manipulation fraud. Right. The story starts with many readers wrote us off as conspiracy theorists when we reported on signs of manipulations in the precious metals market. But as it turns out, trading desks at some of the world's largest banks, like JP Morgan, like Deutsche Bank, right, Goldman Sachs and others, were deeply involved in what the Department of Justice described as a massive multi-year scheme to manipulate the market for precious metals, futures contracts, and to defraud market participants. In an indictment unsealed on Monday morning, the DOJ charged a JP Morgan veteran and former head of its precious metals trading desk, that would be Michael Nowak, Greg Smith, and another trader on JP Morgan's desk in a probe. The men were put on leave over the summer as the investigation neared its conclusion. And there's what we've got. And Nowak was previously named in a civil suit brought by the CFTC. It's interesting, doesn't the government, the CFTC, can't they just do criminal charges? Why would they do civil charges? Anyways, maybe they're doing it on behalf of unnamed people who are complaining, right? The plaintiff, unnamed plaintiffs. I hate calling them plaintiffs, right? They're people who have been screwed. Anyways, and it's not, what's important here with this story, it's not about just some manipulation in gold and silver. That is really important. Now here on Patreon, I know that there's a little more affluence and a little more interest in the precious metals because of personal interest, as well as maybe a little wider understanding, it seems to me, of what's going on out there. Precious metals used to be a store of wealth, and you could hold them, and they were money. And so if you have a currency that is weak and not true, the currency will lose value, and the precious metals, gold and silver, will retain their value and their purchasing power. And this has been a game that has been being played since 1933. It's been tried in the past, and fiat currency always fails, which is why we have the gold standard. But it's not just about having bad money. We've had a bad money issue since 1933, since the bank holiday and FDR's little tricks. And it's gotten worse and worse. In order to hide it, the manipulation hasn't been JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs or Chase Manhattan or Deutsche Bank or the Bank of England or Societe Generale. It's not them. They're not the manipulators. The manipulators are government, the Treasury Department, that wants to hide the fraud that's being committed against us. And so they have allowed these people to get away with this manipulation, to create the artificial belief that gold isn't the same as the dollar. That the dollar has less purchasing power because of inflation, but gold and silver have been intentionally manipulated and held down, not just for a few years, not just since 2008 and the resulting climb and then absolute hammering of the values of precious metals. It goes back to, well beyond 2000. It goes back into the 90s, into the 80s, into the 70s, when we came off of the gold standard altogether, thanks to Nixon's move. So and gold has sprung forward a few times and then gotten pulled back, but it's that pulling back. It's kind of like cocking a gun or pulling a rubber band back. You can pull it back and hold it, but as time takes the front end forward and you're still holding the value way back here, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and there's more reserved energy in it. And that energy is being put into precious metals by the manipulators themselves. But the problem is as time goes forward and leaves that manipulation in place, right, it puts more negative energy as far as the manipulation or the currency goes. By manipulating gold and silver, they're not just hurting gold and silver, they're hurting the entire economy. They're driving the shit it's the fan moment further into the future, but also putting more energy into that effect. And this manipulation doesn't just surround gold and silver. Right now, a quick aside, with Basel III, which took place in April of this year, which was the full monetization of gold. In other words, its full value can be held in reserve and used in making loans and operating currencies around the world. So gold is now monetized again, even though it won't be traded on the street because no one knows how to spend gold, right? How to hold it, how to make change for it, because its value is still not pegged or tied to a real dollar value. It's still speculated, but it's going up in value, and it wants to go up. In other words, it's stretching that rubber band even tighter. But they had to remonetize gold because of what is coming. They see that this is coming. The FTC, the Department of Justice, they want to have some people to kick off the gallows and hang and say, hey, we caught them. We were well aware of the problem when we fixed it. The problem is so much greater than just some market manipulators like the ones in the story. It's more than all the banks around the world that are doing this. It is what they have done to our currency. It's not just gold and silver, it's the currency. It's the medium of exchange, the measurement of wealth that we can create through our efforts, our productivity. In other words, this is important for me, the measurement as human beings, as men and women who work. The measurement is given to us in the form of money, wealth. And by manipulating gold and silver, they have manipulated our paper. And so we have an inaccurate understanding and estimate of our value, of our power as individuals and our individual as well as collective powers, on a national, international scale. They've completely screwed everyone, in other words. And it's not just the gold and silver investors. It's all of us and our money and our currency. It is the Federal Reserve System itself, which deserves to be indicted. And their influence over the Treasury, their influence over financial and investment markets, right, is made or laid bare. It's made clear by the fact that for decades, organizations have said, we've got massive manipulation, we've got all the evidence you need, but it was allowed to continue. Ultimately, the Justice Department, the DOJ, the SEC, the CFTC, all of these organizations responsible for regulating and protecting us, the people, for regulating, protecting the sanctity and value of finance, currency, and the value of our commodities like gold, silver, wheat, pork bellies, frozen concentrated orange juice. All of that, they're responsible for. And they have not done their job because they have been held back like rabid pit bulls, like rabid Rottweilers, like rabid German Shepherds. Pick any of your really good dogs that like to chew up bad things, right? They've been held back. Purposefully told, stop it. Don't do your job. Look the other way. This is about national security. It really has been. They have been held back. Right? If you and I've heard of people, regular people, who just dabble in trying to do investments or get money to invest in their companies, getting in trouble, getting a knock on the door from the SEC, from the Justice Department at state levels and even national levels. People get in trouble for trying to introduce what are called securities, or a negotiable instrument that they were trying to trade for cash, right? Basically stocks or something like that, trying to get investment seed money, but the way they went about it was a little bit illegal. And that money was noted, and then the investigators, the SEC jumped right on them. I've seen evidence of that in my own life back when I was involved in legal stuff back in the 90s. And it's interesting. Wow, those guys were really on it. So as a young man, I saw that and I thought, don't fuck with these guys. The SEC and the CFTC, the Department of Justice, state and federal, they don't fuck around. They're watching stuff. They're doing their job. Better keep it above board, John. Better play it straight, play it square, right? And so I always have thought, these guys know their stuff. And they do. And so when I heard about market manipulation, I thought, they're going to get caught. It's not long now. And I learned that there is a real conspiracy, and it's on the part of the government, They're conspiring to keep precious metals contained because that is real money and real value. And it's what our currency is based on, which is our real efforts, which is what our economy is based on and held together and traded with, is the currency and the money, the gold and the silver. And so our belief that our economy is this big, right? Everything is held together with the full faith and credit of the people. It is our belief and our confidence in the economy, our government, the justice system, as well as the money itself, the belief that it has value. It's hard to believe this entire country is based on our belief that it is a good thing. Meanwhile, the people in charge, while fostering that belief system we have allowed fraud to continue all of this time. And now it's starting to come out. Now they're starting to convict people on it. Yeah, these are going to be scapegoats. These guys are scapegoats. But they're going to be able to point to things like this, the Bernie Madoffs of the world, the other shenanigans pulled by little guys, and they're going to be the scapegoats. They're going to find justice. These bad guys, they're going to find justice to try and convince and put confidence into the people of the United States that the government is doing its job and that they are able and willing to always look out for our interests first. They're going to do that now, but it's at the end of the game. It's at the end, before shit hits the fan, before the big economic crunch comes, before all the social chaos comes, right? It's like the government is now, and it has been, indicted mentally by more people as being incompetent and unwilling to do their job. And now they're trying to make themselves look like, no, the government's good. Government can do its job. You can count on us. The problem is elsewhere, right? In other words, it's the blame game being played from this level down here, right? The gold and silver, to the money, to the overall economy, to belief in the government, right? It's the blame game. Much as Trump is blaming the Federal Reserve and saying, you guys are ruining our economy because you're putting us at a disadvantage compared to everyone else. And the Federal Reserve wants to get Trump thrown out of office, and they're playing their game saying, well, we're kingmakers and we don't got to put up with your crap. We're independent. Yeah, well, I got a problem with an independent organization that's owned by banks that have foreign interests holding their stock. And so we're allowing foreign banking cartels to control our monetary system while they talk about taking fiscal control away from our spending in our country. Right? It's a big, big game that's being played. Unfortunately, their big game in D.C. results in a problem for us, for me and you. The problem is, right? The problem is we don't have a continuity of people program. Well, we do. It's called prepping. But most of the people don't do it. They're not prepared for what's coming. They're not aware of what's coming. And unfortunately, it's going to affect them very negatively. The whole country has been taught to rely on a just-in-time delivery service, and you can have what you want, you just have to charge it, go into more debt, right? So we've got, the people are waking up, and the government is starting to do its job, but it's too little, too late for the whole economy. You know, and it's good to see that this is coming out, because for people who have invested their lives, and they've taken their efforts, their work, their productivity, and their wealth, and they've invested it in something real, like gold or silver, or brass, copper, and lead, and cold blue steel. They've put their wealth into something that has real value and that they can hold, while the rest of these jokers in government get their act together, because they can see it coming. They need their credibility protected, the government does. They see shit coming, it's going to hit the fan. And they need to do something about it. And they're starting to. But I don't think it's to fix the problem. I think it's to cover their asses. JP Morgan, they're trying to cover their ass. Right? We're seeing gold and silver trying to, in fact, they have broken out. A number of speakers have discussed what is going on in those markets as banks and sovereigns and wealthy people are gobbling up all of the production and more of gold and silver right now. All of the storehouses, they're trying to get all they can. And there's starting to be shortages, and that's starting to affect the trading on Wall Street. Additionally, right, JP Morgan and other banks are starting to get caught, and they're being punished for it. Not as much as I'd like them to be punished for, but it's starting. So they are going to pull back. They're going to pull back out of trading in precious metals, which is going to free the market. And the prices are going to skyrocket, which is going to reveal the lack of value and the lack of faith in the currency itself, which is going to cause even more problems. In other words, remember this stretching thing where they're holding the price back while time goes forward with manipulation? They're going to let go of the manipulation. And like a slingshot, it's going to rocket and go past, right? That's what we can expect to see. Shit is hitting the fan. They're releasing their control mechanisms. Things are being exposed, right? We're being threatened with war, and we're being threatened with political, constitutional assassination. It's not even political. They're trying to assassinate the Constitution. Right? They've been cutting it to ribbons for years, and now they just want to get rid of it. The socialists do. Everything has been stretched and manipulated and pulled, and they're just letting it go. Right? The government itself, it needs to have a little credibility. It's going to try and do what it can, right? Or at least certain departments, because they need us to believe in them so that they can do their job. Unfortunately, they haven't done their job in our name. They've been doing it for themselves. And we'll see if this can be straightened out. We'll see. It's going to take some time. But time is short, in my opinion. So you need to get ready. You need to be prepared. Thank you for supporting us here. There's a lot to learn. For me, I learn every day. Always learning about this crap. Trying to figure it out and understand it. But we've got big, big troubles coming. Get prepared. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Always faithful. Faithful to yourself, your spirituality, your religion, faithful to your family, your belief systems, faithful to your country, your true country, right? Semper Fi, and Godspeed.